it up, pump it up.
Trae.
Come on, come on.
With Trae.
Pump it up, pump it up.
It's the day with
This is the day to gain inspiration, to make a positive change in the nation. We're inviting you to partake in conversation, to raise your vibration. It's the day that we will all celebrate all of our peeps that make this thing elevate. Watch the negative fade away, cause it's the day with Trae.
Happy Friday, everybody. Ooh, it's been a long week, okay? But a good week. I am Besa Gordon, and of course, you are watching The Day with Trae as I fill in for my good sis Trae Holiday, who will be back on Monday, by the way. Today, we are joined by Stephanie Morales of Made Space Seattle, and we are talking about holding Black spaces. Plus, we will be joined by Brad Finegood of King County Public Health to talk about overdose prevention. But at first, we got my girl Stephanie. Dude, before we really get into what's going on, for those that don't know, what is Made Space?
Yeah, Made Space is essentially a arts, culture, business, community hub right in the heart of the Central District on 20th and Union. And it just serves as a space. It's really a blank but not so blank canvas where we have community come in and people do everything from classes to art shows to financial literacy, everything. It's a classroom, it's an art space, it's a community meeting space. It's just a space for everybody to come in and do what they need to do and for community to hold that.
And what made you open your space?
For me as an artist, originally it started at trying to find galleries and not feeling like I was welcome there, or when I would try to host an event, I would get very people are questioning me and who's going to be there? What kind of music are you playing? And just not feeling like welcome, you know, but then when the event was done, they're like, this is so great, let's partner. And I'm like, I need my own space. And I need to have a space, not just for myself, but for other people to feel like they're not going to be questioned about who they are or what they're doing. They're not going to be looked at with cynicism, and they can actually flourish and really support them beyond just whatever we can get out of it, which is what I was feeling.
And sometimes I think that that's a feeling that we get a lot of times within like the Seattle area. You know, it's like, especially if someone's new, or maybe they're just getting their feet wet and doing events, or, you know, having different galas to get their art out there. People are like, who are you? Where are you coming from? Who are you going to be bringing? And a lot of times it's like, look, I just want to have like my mom, my family, some coworkers, you know, a few people that love my art. And I just kind of want to get it out there. And there's like the whole third degree. And so for you as an artist, you felt that it was important to make a space that was open for everyone.
Yes, and affordable and accessible, because that was the other part of it. You know, I could have a really great event and be in the negative at the end of it because the cost was so high. So yes.
It's very expensive, trust me. I one time booked a space and was like, how do you guys do this all the time?
Right, you can't do it all the time. Yeah.
Now, what are some things that people should know about Made Space? And actually, let me back up. What made you open it up where you did in the Central District?
I live there. I also felt like the artists that I'm in community with, a lot of them were from the Central District, or they are Black and Brown artists who there's a whole historical basis in the Central District for Black and Brown artists to be there, or in even more so to return home there. I also live there, and I'm a lifelong resident of Seattle. I remember the CD in the 90s, and I remember it, and I see it now, and I see it even just in the years that I've been living there and watching how much is changing, and I understand how important it is to hold those spaces.
Feels like it's coming back to where it was back in the 90s, especially like, you know, last time I saw you was at Black Wall Street. And that reminds me of the feeling I had growing up in the city where, you know, we all would have the parties in the streets and we would all come together. And it was just a very, very Black explosive experience, but in the best way possible. Mm-hmm. And, you know, having spaces like yours is important for us to be able to put our art out and, you know, do our music, or, you know, even like Trae. I want to say that Trae actually had her Sankofa viewing party over there. Did. So it's like, you know, it's a space where anyone is able to come and utilize the space, and it's affordable to them, where they don't feel like you said, I had an event, I wanted to do an event, had an idea, now I'm broke. Mm-hmm. You know, that's not what you necessarily want to do. What is happening right now with Made Space that made you actually go on social media and put out a call to action to your community?
Well, first of all, one of the things that I've been learning as I've been growing my business is being able to look at the data and, because you can be in the middle of a business and not really understand what's happening with your finances, not understanding what's happening with your capacity. And for me, what is important beyond just like creating Made Space is that it is sustainable. And I was able to look at my numbers and realize like, this is not going to be sustainable. I will have to make a decision in a couple months if it continues like this, that whether I can even keep the space open. And I told myself before I really get to it being the most dire point, I'm going to be vulnerable and tell people, hey, this is what's going on. And if you really care about this space and you have used this space or it's been important to you in some way, I need your support. And that can look like anything. There's a number of things that can look like. So that kind of, just being wanting to be transparent.
And then, let's kind of go into that. How does that look? Like in terms of people using the space once again? I think it's so important for people to know all of the ways that they can utilize the space. So that way it's not a matter of, I'm not a painter, so there's nothing I can do there. Or, I don't have a movie that's being shown. But there's many different ways that people can use Made Space. I mean, it's a Made Space. It's gonna be, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's literally just, it's a blank but not so blank canvas. People come in there and we have everything from business pop-ups. We have markets and things like that. We have wellness and healing events. We have financial literacy things. We have people have just private parties. We have people that just want to do organizational retreats, film screenings. I mean, really anything that you can think of. I always invite people, come down to the space, look at it, and you tell me what you can dream up in here. And I'm going to support it in every way that I can. And then I also try to leverage our audience. So if you've got an event, I'm going to share it with our audience. I want to put it on our calendar. I'm going to tell people about it because I want us both to be winning in this situation. I don't just see it as a rental.
And then, how has community showed up for you since you put out that call to action?
Yes. I mean, I was actually really overwhelmed. I think I even posted it because I was just like, wow, I'm so overwhelmed by the response that I've gotten. And people have showed up in every way possible. I mean, not just, there's been financial support, but really some of the most touching stuff and really like meaningful stuff too has just been like people reaching out with different resources, with different programs that I didn't know about, or booking the space, or volunteering time, or volunteering services. There's just been, it's not always monetary. And actually some of the stuff that wasn't even monetary was really the most impactful because it's given me hope that I can reach sustainability through those resources that they've given me.
I love that. And then, with spaces like yours, if it were to get into a point where spaces like yours were to start disappearing again, what happens to our beautiful Central District?
Yeah, I mean, we're watching it being taken over everywhere I look. It's homes and spaces being torn down and apartment complexes that are just like, we're not there. We're not seen, we're not there. And so we're not thought of when the time comes for putting out resources, when the time comes for supporting artists, when the time comes for us meeting, even the times when we need to get together for different community reasons, it's not there and we don't have access to it. And then it just doesn't happen. And then all the things that happen after that those changes don't happen.
It creates like that domino effect. And I think it creates, it sucks to say, but it creates a feeling for someone that grew up in the city to not feel welcome in their own neighborhood. Like, this is where you grew up. This is where you're, like, my mom actually grew up in the house that I grew up in because my grandmother used to own a house on 19th and Cherry. But now my whole family, they live out south. I'm the only one that actually lives in Seattle now. And at one point, there were like certain parts of the Central District that I didn't even feel welcome in because nobody in that area looked like me. Everyone had moved out. And now it's starting to change, which is why it's so important for us to keep those spaces like yours, because even if we don't live in the Central District anymore, we can still come to Made Space.
Absolutely, yeah. It offers a space for a return home. And there's a very intricate network of other businesses and artists and people and community that, again, even if you don't live there, like you said, even people returning home and being there and having a place where they feel a sense of belonging. and where they can come together, even though many people have been dispersed, and feel completely welcome.
Now, do you guys have any events coming up that we can support right now that are over at Made Space?
Yes, it's not on the website yet, but 7/7 at 7 p.m. We're doing a first of. I'm going to start doing some collaborative fundraising events because, again, it's never something that I just want to do. It's an ecosystem. So Loving Room Books and myself, who are actually we're in the same building.
Mm-hmm.
We've experienced some of the same microaggressions. We have experienced the same struggle that it is to hold Black space. And so we're coming together on July 7th at 7 p.m. So y'all can come. It's a sliding scale situation. Just come out and support. And we're going to do some fundraising for our two businesses.
I love that. And, you know, once again, I think it's so important for people to know how they can support you. So if you want to look directly into that camera and let anyone know, like, hey, if you want to support Made Space, this is how you can do it. And this is how you can actually save this Black space.
Yes. There's actually 3 ways. They're all, you can go onto the website. On the website, you can subscribe to the newsletter that we're going to start doing monthly. So you can find out about all the updates of what's going on and how to support and how to tap in. You can also go and share your experience. We have like a little testimonials button, so you can click that, let us know what your experience at Made Space has been, or even just why a space like this matters to you. That is also really helpful in our storytelling as we, reach out for more support. And then also you can go to click support the mission, and on there's a whole list of everything from Patreon to donation to purchasing hoodies and sweaters and merchandise, and even we've got an Amazon list for things that we need to make the space more accessible and really help people that are in there renting to be able to have all the amenities that will help them be successful. So those are the ways.
I love that.
And then of course 7/7 at 7 p.m.
7 at 7 p.m. Okay, you guys, look, I want for you to definitely pull up to Made Space, support, and definitely come out on 7/7. Grab your tickets for that, sign up for that. And if you've been to Made Space before, whether you've gone to an event, whether you've gone there and purchased something, whether you've walked by it, if it's given you a warm and fuzzy feeling, definitely make sure that you guys go on there and leave a testimonial. Believe it or not, and I say believe it or not because, sometimes if you don't have a business, you don't understand how far a testimonial can go, but they really do make a difference. So definitely leave those testimonials of how Made Space has affected you in a positive way. In the meantime, between time, Stephanie, I want to thank you so much for joining us. We are definitely going to have to save this space because, again, we need these Black spaces in the Central District so we can always feel that we are at home when we want to go home or come back home, We are going to go to a quick commercial break, but during the break, we are going to show you guys a little bit of the grand opening, which we were at for Made Space. And when we come back from break, we are joined by Brad Finegood from King County Public Health to talk about overdose prevention.
And the vision is coming to life because I put myself into it and I have my community around me, and you guys are just like validation of that. And so thank you guys. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
What's going on right now? Made Space is opening up a super dope creative space on the corner in 20th and Union. It was co-founded by Stephanie Morales. Super honored to actually call her a true, genuine friend. And so the grand reopening is taking place. It was formerly known as The Link, and music, drinks, food, art, drumming, and community.
For me, Made Space is being really intentional about making the space, making the time, making the art, making the community and connections. And so that's a place to do that at, because a lot of times we have that in our heart to do that, but the first step is where? We're at the grand reopening of Made Space, formerly the Link Project. And so I just took some not great stuff and was able to pivot it into a really exciting reopening of the space and focusing on the things that were really working and that I really have a passion for. So community events, art making, gathering, all that kind of stuff. We've been able to host a lot of various artists, both musically, visually, writing and all that. Like Melvin, Fly Blind Guy, came here. He's from East Union, so to be able to come home and be in this place and be celebrated in this place was something that was really important. I had Aramis A.O. Hamer. She's a beautiful soul and has beautiful artwork and was able to kind of be in this space. Adimbo Lakia, who is here today as our drummer, and was able to just put up some really amazing work, and he talked about how that show kind of launched him into the next level of where he's at, and that's kind of always been the goal with my business, and now holding space, that's what we're trying to do here. You know, it's just a launch pad and a place of growth.
This is one of the few spaces that's actually ran by an artist that's left in this particular region that has such a rich history of Black folk and people of color. So I feel like Stephanie is really doing her part of really trying to like hold down the fort and make accessible space available for people who have been pushed out so much. One artist, two Black artists, and artists of color. So personally, like I'll just speak from myself and just speak from my heart why this space is really important to me is because I had one of my shows here, and she provided me with an affordable space, which is really hard to find now in Seattle, and it's already hard enough to live. And so like part of us living as artists is showing our work, exhibiting our work. So if we don't even have a space to show it, like what are we doing here? You know what I mean? So she's making that possible. The art scene is huge, but the Black art scene is small. And there's two sides of that. The negative is that it's small, but the positive is that we are like deeply rooted and deeply connected. So I feel like I know almost every Black artist of color out here. And so what I value about our community is that we look out for each other, you know? And so I feel like that's what makes Seattle art scene dope. But it is, I mean, I feel it, yeah, no, it was hot 2 years ago. And I think what artists can do now is get strategic about how to make this a long-term thing where we still keeping the narrative and keeping artists present. I'm gonna give you this direct example about how Made Space made it possible for me to pay my studio rent in Seattle. So she provided me with space to display my artwork up. During that event, I sold thousands of dollars of artwork. We had a commission part of it, so I was able to give her funds as well. One, the space, and also contributing to what she's doing. So it's also this like exchange that's really going on. And that's helping me, how I'm saying, pay my studio rent, like pay these bills out here, and really be a full-time artist and be independent from institutions that do come with a whole lot of strings. There's certain things you can't say. There's certain sort of smiles you have to give and hands you got to shake to kind of like make it work, you know? But Made Space is a perfect example about how she's helping to keep artists financially free from corporate institutions that push a certain narrative, and then we become a part of the whole puppet parade to keep that going. But it's like, when you not feeding me, I'm not worried about the hand. You're like, you're not supposed to bite the hand that feeds you. It's like, you're not feeding me, so we about to bite back.
People were already doing a lot of businesses, and then of course during that pandemic, a lot of people were able to explore even further their passions, their interests, and grow into businesses. But you know, that leap from online to a physical space can be a little bit difficult. And also, especially with gentrification, we're all spread out all over the city and all over the county. And so this becomes a place where it's like, when you want to be intentional on supporting and elevating Black creatives and entrepreneurs, this is where you can come. It becomes a hub for that. And if someone's a business owner or creative that wants to tap into a wider community and wider audience, this is where they can come to. So it's like, you can bring your intention here and you're going to find a place to plug into that intention. I want everybody to understand that what the creative stuff they have inside of them has value, and they can make a living doing that, and they can make community doing that. So that's what the space is. In the space, the idea is we make time, we make art, we make community, and it's just a really intentional type of place. We have lost so many spaces. I really feel like there's a resurgence happening in the Central District of sort of taking back some of these spaces. You know, we acknowledge that the Central District will never be what it was, but we can take that, just like I've done here, and pivot. We can pivot it into something, into the new Central District, and take hold of these spaces and continue to occupy these spaces. And so that's what this is for. It's really even though there's a lot of color on the walls, it's a blank canvas. I want everybody to come in here, look, and see what they can dream up in this place.
The importance to share the history of the Buffalo Soldiers of Seattle and Buffalo Soldiers of everywhere, including cowboys and cowgirls of color everywhere, is really important because most likely they're forgotten. It's important that they're acknowledged, especially for girls like me who look up to them.
At a rodeo, it's got an impact on people when they see somebody doing something like that, especially a person of color, you know what I mean? It's got a big impact on people, I think.
Representing the Evergreen State, I am your Miss Teen Rodeo Washington, Jessa Thomas. Welcome to the Windswept Farm.
Join Cascade PBS for its 3rd year of celebrating local Black artists featured in its Black Arts Legacies project. The evening will include performances by artists featured in the project, a portrait gallery of this year's artists, video highlights from the series, food, dancing, and more. Join us Tuesday, June 18th at 6:30 p.m. at Washington Hall. Learn more and RSVP for your free tickets at cascadepbs.org/events.
Spring Awakening, live on stage this June at the Fifth Avenue Theater. Winner of 8 Tony Awards, Spring Awakening weaves youth, love, and the clash between generations all in one powerful rock musical. Buy tickets now at fifthavenue.org.
Welcome back to The Day with Trae. I am your buddy, Besa Gordon, filling in for my good sis, Trae Holiday. Right now, we are here to have a very, very serious topic, especially, with it just really taking over just the Seattle area. It's growing up here, I'm amazed at what I've been seeing as I walk down the streets, especially as someone that lives in the First Hill area. We are now about to be joined by Brad Finegood of King County Public Health to talk about overdose prevention. Hello, Brad.
Hi, Besa. Thank you for having us today. Thank you for having me today. Thanks for having this conversation today.
Thank you for, being here to have this conversation. When I grew up in the Central District, this was not a thing. And then I moved to the Renton area. Like a lot of, Black people that live in the Central District, we got moved out. It wasn't until I moved back to Seattle. And when I moved back to Seattle, I moved to South Lake Union. And I was like, whoa,
yeah,
what is going on? And everyone's like, yeah, it's been like this for years. But, if you didn't necessarily live in the area and you just kind of drove through it, came in and out, you didn't really notice what was going on. Let's really talk about the magnitude of, the overdoses that are happening within our Seattle King County area.
Yeah, and I appreciate your observation. It's really changed a lot in the last couple of years. The wrong convergence, the pandemic, and a really changing drug supply happened in 2019, 2020, and we started to see a huge increase in synthetic drugs, and especially fentanyl. In 2015, when I first came to town, there were 3 fentanyl overdoses in this whole county. Last year, there was over 1,000 fentanyl overdoses in this whole county. And so we've seen this huge exponential increase in fentanyl. We've seen it all around the country. We've seen it really up and down the West Coast, but we've really felt the heart of it here in the Northwest. And it's really continued to change and continue to evolve. And our community, our King County community, our Seattle community, our greater King County community has been tremendously impacted.
I can't even give a percentage number hike on that. That is wild. And I don't necessarily know if you have like a definitive answer for this, but how is it getting here?
Yeah.
And not only getting here, it's massively dispersed at that point.
Yeah, here's what we know is that fentanyls came in a couple of different forms, and it's gotten increasingly less expensive. When it first came into the community back really in 2019, we saw it in the form of these counterfeit pills, right? So somebody who might have been taking pain medication and had to stop taking their pain medication or looking for pain medication might end up buying some type of pain medication that they thought was pain medication, but it was really fentanyl. It was like 1 to 3% fentanyl. It was much more expensive at the time, much harder to find. And we know that since 2018, 2019, those fentanyl pills are readily available as inexpensive as less than $1. They're everywhere. And we've seen a really changing drug supply. So now we're not only seeing fentanyl come in the form of these counterfeit pills, but we're also seeing fentanyl come in the form of white powder and rock form. And why that's really important is because we know sometimes in the community that people have used other drugs like cocaine in different forms and not had really bad impacts from it throughout time. But now we're seeing those powders and the rock form that the fentanyl purity in that is anywhere between 15% to 90%. So somebody who's not used to doing fentanyl, their body's not used to doing it, might have some really bad impacts without knowing. So that's why it's really important that we think about and we use the tools that we have, because we have a lot of tools at our disposal.
Is there a way, because I don't remember what I was watching, but I seen a woman and there was a newscast and they were going around to different encampments, and she was actually talking about how she'd had body pains and how she didn't have any health care, so she wasn't able to go get, I want to say it was like opioids or something like that. And so she would buy her pills off of the streets. And within doing that, of course, she now is putting herself at risk of getting some type of, opioid, substitute that may actually have this fentanyl in it. If you are trying to get, like your body fixed, you're just in pain and you're just like, I'm just trying to get rid of my pain. I'm not trying to do all of that. Is there a way for them to look at it with the naked eye and know that their pill has been, infected, if you will?
Yeah. So a couple things just on what you're talking about. Number one is that we've seen a lot of people who are struggling with fentanyl and dying of fentanyl and having bad impacts of fentanyl, who aren't the young kids, but they're really the older population, right? In their 40s and their 50s and their 60s, who have a lot of chronic, health conditions, some pain that they're trying to manage, all that type of stuff. So we've seen that and the impacts. And we have amazing physicians around this community who work for places like the Healthcare for the Homeless, who work for our public health agencies, who work for other community health agencies. And there's amazing treatments that are available. And so we really encourage people to, to have that trust and faith that sometimes they've, not always had in the medical system, but we really have some amazing providers. And the other thing is there is a way for people to know and to understand if fentanyl is in their supply. So people can get access to fentanyl test strips. And fentanyl test strips, through King County, we put out 30,000 fentanyl test strips in the first quarter of 2024, because we know that people don't want to be doing fentanyl a lot of times and want to make sure that they're not. So through public health, through a lot of community providers, people can get access to fentanyl test strips. We actually now have 4 vending machines around King County where people can go without any, it costs nothing. It's a public health vending machine, and get access to fentanyl test strips and other life-saving devices like Narcan that can bring somebody back from an overdose if they're having an overdose.
Now, how do the test strips work?
Yeah, so there's instructions on the test strip. So we would encourage everybody to follow the instructions, because it's not super smooth, right? But they take just a tiny, tiny bit of the substance, so people don't have to worry about wasting their substance or whatever. And they dilute it in water. There's a little device to help them dilute it, and then they just dip it in, just like a little litmus test type thing. And they read the results just like the instructions show. So it's just like basic science class, but people can tell just within a matter of minutes whether or not there's fentanyl in their drug supply.
I'm curious to know, like, if someone takes fentanyl by accident, how long does it take for them to know before it's possibly too late?
Yeah. I think what's really important is that people understand and know what the signs are of somebody who may be using fentanyl, maybe purposefully, maybe not purposefully, or if you have a loved one that you're really concerned about. Fentanyl is a very powerful opioid, which is a depressant, right? It's going to make you really quiet, lethargic, almost like asleep, right? So what a fentanyl overdose actually looks like, it looks like somebody going into a deep, deep sleep. So if you see a loved one or somebody you care about, or even somebody out there in the community that looks like they're falling into a deep, deep sleep and it doesn't look natural, you want to check on somebody to make sure that they're okay. Because with fentanyl, as powerful as it is, the time frame that you have to intervene in their overdose so that they don't die is really, really critical and often really short amount of time.
So, okay, say, we're not too far from Pioneer Square right now. Say we're walking down the street and then we see someone and maybe they're like sitting on some steps, or I've seen people just hunched over in the middle of the street.
Yeah.
Is that hunching over a sign of a fentanyl overdose?
That's a great, great question, right? So sometimes it's really difficult to tell if somebody, is living outside and you don't know if they're in an overdose state or if they're just sleeping, right? And that front hunch is really a really important sign. So when I see somebody like that and I'm walking down the street, all I'll do is ask them, hey, are you okay? And I've talked to friends and now they're asking people, hey, are you okay? I went onto the bus one time and there was a person, he was in that front hunch slumped and he was a little bit slumped over, but he had all of his paperwork scattered everywhere, right? It just didn't look normal, right? Nobody asked him how he was doing, if he was okay, right? All I did was say, hey, buddy, are you okay? And he didn't answer the first time. So I knew something was up. I said, hey, are you okay? In just a little bit louder voice, right? He didn't answer. So I just tapped him on the shoulder. Hey, are you okay? And he came to. And he's like, yeah, I'm okay. Thanks for checking on me, right? No, people are not gonna, rarely will anybody get agitated, but people don't want to die, right? And so if somebody then doesn't answer, that's when we want to make sure that people have Narcan or naloxone on them. Always call 911, but Narcan, extremely easy to use. It comes in just a little plunger type thing. You just stick it up somebody's nostril, spray it. If somebody's not having an overdose, there's no negative effect of it.
I see. And then if they are having an overdose, what will happen?
Yeah, so they'll come to, and they'll want to know what's happening, right? They came from basically a really deep slumber, right, to being awake, right? And that's why you want to call 911 to make sure the paramedics are around, right? To make sure that they can help manage the situation. If there's any other health impacts that are coming, you want to just give somebody space because they're going basically what Narcan does is it knocks the opioid off the brain. So somebody might be a little bit agitated. They might be in a little bit of withdrawal. So you just want to give somebody space, but you want to make sure somebody's okay. You always want to call 911 just to make sure.
And then, you were kind of talking about earlier where some people have actually taken fentanyl over the years and their body is a little bit more used to it.
Yep.
How do people seek treatment to wean themselves off of that? Because, it only takes one time for it to be too much.
That's right. That's right. We have extremely, one of the things, if you would have, if I was here last year, which I was here last year, and you go back and you watch when I was here with Converge last year, I was struggling with hope, to have hope, because overdose deaths are going up. Now, from this time in 2024 to the same time last year, overdose deaths are actually down 8%. And that's something that I'm really proud of because we've been able to get so much treatment out for people. And I really do have hope because we have extremely effective treatment medications that we've been able to get out into the community because we know, like you said, if somebody's tolerance is up, that it takes medication to really help stabilize the brain. So we have methadone. We have a number of, we've expanded our methadone across the county, and we now have mobile methadone vans in different places throughout the county to make treatment easier and more accessible. there's a medication called buprenorphine that people take orally that helps stabilize their brain chemistry. And now there's an injectable, a long-acting buprenorphine shot. So somebody doesn't need to have to manage their medication every day, but they can get a shot and have that protective factor for up to a month. And that's amazing. For somebody who's been taking fentanyl for a while, their tolerance might be up, to give them a really good fighting chance to get their brain stabilized, to be able to take the steps in the right direction, and to have that recovery pathway. The other thing that gives me a lot of hope is the county has invested heavily in these new low barrier options for people. So starting next year, the county and University of Washington and the city and DESC is going to have a post-overdose center. So if somebody has a non-fatal overdose, it's a place that they can go for the day to chill out, get medication, and be in a warm recovery environment with peers and stuff like that to get the care that they need, so that they aren't taken to the hospital where they get good care, but people don't necessarily want to go to the hospital or, unfortunately, to jail. And then we have crisis care centers coming on board across the county over the next couple of years. So what we've been able to do is lower barriers to care so people can actually get care where they're at.
And so I'm curious to know, and I feel like you may have said this, but just for clarification, you've lowered the barrier for care, but does that also mean that people don't necessarily have to worry about cost?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So Medicaid, if people are on Medicaid or Apple Health, that covers all of the medications that they might be needing. Most private insurance do, and if people don't have insurance, then there's funds to be able to cover all the medications that they need. Narcan or naloxone is free from the county. So all that people need to do is go to our website, which is kingcounty.gov/overdose, and they can get Narcan or naloxone for free and also get connected to where they need help. Another thing that we've been able to do with some change in federal regulation is we've started a phone line to get access to medication. So now 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, somebody can pick up the phone and call a doctor and get access to medication phoned into their pharmacy of their choice right on demand. So, and that is also free and no cost.
Okay, and then, and again, I just think it's so important for us to all know what these signs are. Whether you are walking down the street, whether you're on the light rail, whether you're at the mall, or you can even be at home, you don't know what someone is necessarily doing in their spare time. What are the signs of someone having an overdose? And if you can actually say that looking directly into that camera.
Yeah, if you see somebody who's maybe front slouched over, who's extremely drowsy, who's not responding to any type of verbal or physical stimulus, then there's a good chance that they might be having an overdose. What you want to be able to do is call 911 right away and be able to provide Narcan or naloxone directly to them. Other signs might be if their skin tone looks different, if their lips are changed, if it looks like their skin might be clammy or something of such, and they're non-responsive to stimulus. If that's the case, please check on someone, because that might be the moment between life or death. And as we always talk about, that's our community members, right? That's our brother, that's our sister. And for me, that was my loved one. That was my brother who died of an overdose. And if the person who was with my brother that day knew what an overdose looked like, he'd probably be here with us today.
I'm so sorry to hear that also.
I think it's really important to know also that our community becomes so impacted. You know, there's recently a study that was done that almost half of American people know somebody who's overdosed. So it's not just me, it's almost all of us.
I'm sorry, I didn't think that was gonna get me like that, but it did. I think it's so important for us to know that in moments like this, our community really does need us. And I think that in being in the downtown area or the capital area, we see so many people that are going through this, and it's so easy for us just to walk on by them and just be like, I gotta get to my appointment, or I gotta get to work, or I gotta get to my meeting, or just whatever have you. And I've done it myself. And what's really unfortunate about that is you don't know, and I personally don't know how many people I could have left for just, for better words, dead, and just being in my own zone. And I think it's so important for us to realize that our community is hurting from things that we may not have ever experienced, but whatever it is, however they got there, it's important for us to be there for them. And it may seem like an extra thing to grab when it comes to that Narcan, or to be like, hey, are you okay? But that's someone's life. That's someone's mom, dad, brother, and sister. And man, it's such a heavy topic, but it's such a topic that needs to be talked about. And these are signs that we all need to be aware of, rather than just, oh, it's just another guy slumped over. Like, this is someone that's going through it. So I'm sorry. I definitely want to thank you for coming in and talking about this, and just once again educating our audience on what to do if they see this happening, and how they can, be a part of changing what our city looks like, and also changing and even saving a life. Whew. I am going to gather myself, you guys. And Brad, I want to thank you once again for coming in. We are going to go to a quick break, and then we are going to wrap up the show for the day.
Seattle really is just a big neighborhood. It was a place for us to grow.
We all have a gift of some sort. It's just my vision of what I see.
Theater allows you to hit harder and be more. There's a sense of hope that your story will survive longer than you will.
Stream on the Cascade PBS app or watch live. Fridays at 8:50 p.m. on Cascade PBS. Learn more at blackartslegacies.com.
Africatown Plaza is our latest affordable housing development project. It's 126 units of affordable housing over community commercial space.
It's the first time in my career, and I've been doing this for 10 years, that I was able to design for people who look like me.
Africatown Plaza is a beacon of hope.
Africatown Plaza is a love letter to the community.
All right, you guys. Well, man, we had a very, very deep topics today, about saving Black businesses, but also just saving general people within our community, being that we really don't know what the next person is going through. We don't know what someone's doing in their spare time. I think the biggest thing that I've gotten from both of these conversations is being kind to our community, saving our Black spaces. Just because it's not your space doesn't mean that you don't have a connection to it, and doesn't mean that you can't have a connection to it. Just because that's not your friend on the street doesn't mean that that's not someone else's friend on the street. That's someone's brother, that's someone's sister, that's someone's mom, aunt, uncle. It's important for us to take care of our community the same way that we want to be taken care of, right? So with that being said, hopefully you take what you were able to learn today back home, share it with a friend, do whatever you need to do to make sure that we are saving our community, so that way we all can have a brighter tomorrow. Now, until Monday at 11 a.m., obviously, I'm not my good sis Trae Holiday. I'm Besa Gordon. So Monday, you will be rejoined by my sis Trae on a holiday, on the day with Trae. If you ever want to keep up with me, again, I'm Besa. You can keep up with me on all social media platforms at Besa Gordon. If you want to learn more about my TV show, Back to Besa, you can follow Back to Besa on Instagram, Back to Besa TV. Everywhere else, it's just Back to Besa. Show airs Saturdays on Fox 13 Seattle at 10:30 p.m. and then replays Sundays at 10 a.m. And then on Thursdays, I go on Good Day to promote the show. And then, of course, you can watch all of the episodes on Converge Media at whereweconverge.com/Back to Besa. So until Monday at 11 a.m., I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me this week as I filled in for my good sis Trae Holiday. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys soon. And I am going to continue to breathe and gather myself. I'm not going to hold you. That was a very deep topic, but it was absolutely one that we needed to have. Hope that you guys have an amazing rest of your day. And as I usually say, keep that energy high.
Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media.